Imagine waking up one day to find that someone you know has vanished completely without a trace. Now, imagine that this person's disappearance happens in the heart of a place shrouded in mystery, where the murky waters of the bayou hide. Secrets as old as time itself. This isn't just any ordinary disappearance. This is the chilling story of Sarah, a woman who vanished into the Louisiana bayou, leaving behind nothing but whispers, rumors, and the haunting echoes of her struggle. What happened to Sarah? Was it a desperate escape from the chains of slavery? Or something far more sinister? If you're captivated by mysteries like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who love a good story. Stay with us as we dive into the unknown. The Louisiana Bayou, this vast, mysterious network of swamps, marshes, and rivers, has long been a place of hidden stories. The landscape itself is as haunting as it is beautiful. Silvery mist hangs low over murky waters, cypress trees loom like silent sentinels, and the air is thick with the scent of damp earth. It's a place where the past and present blend, where secrets are kept, and where time seems to slow down, allowing history to quietly haunt every ripple in the water dot for centuries. The bayou has served as a refuge, but it has also been a place of escape. And for Sarah, a woman born into slavery, the bayou offered more than just the threat of danger. It symbolized the possibility of freedom, a hope, though fraught with peril, that was too strong to ignore. The bayou's dense labyrinth, with its many twists and turns, provided cover for those desperate enough to seek it. But beyond the thick branches and shadowed paths lies an unsettling truth. The bayou also has a way of swallowing people whole, leaving no trace behind. The stories of runaway slaves who vanished without a trace have been whispered through generations, but Sarah's disappearance remains one of the most chilling. As we journey into the heart of this tale, we must understand that the bayou is not just a backdrop for Sarah's story. It's a character in its own right. The waters here don't just conceal, they protect. But from what exactly? Sarah wasn't just another face in the vast ocean of the enslaved. She was a woman of remarkable resilience, a survivor who, despite the brutal circumstances of her life, held onto a glimmer of hope. Born into slavery, Sarah's early years were marked by hardship and pain, as were the lives of so many in the antebellum South. Her existence was one dictated by the chains of others' chains that, at every turn, sought to diminish her voice, her identity, her very being. Yet, despite it all, Sarah was not someone to be easily forgotten. She had an air of quiet strength, an inner spark that even the darkest forces couldn't extinguish. She worked the fields like many other slaves, but it was the fire in her eyes, the way she carried herself, that caught the attention of those around her. Her quiet determination was something that could not be ignored. But like so many enslaved women, Sarah's life was largely defined by the world around her. Her dreams, if she dared to have them, were of a life free from the shackles of servitude. Sarah's presence was a stark reminder of the cruelty of the system in which she lived. Her story, though largely untold, mirrored that of countless others, a life spent in silence, in toil, in hope for a freedom that seemed perpetually out of reach. But deep within, Sarah had a plan. And it wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about escape. Escape from a life that had never been hers. The Louisiana Bayou, with its dark, secretive waters, would become her stage, and freedom would be her prize. One fateful night, Sarah made the decision that would alter the course of her life forever. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the landscape. In the stillness of the night, where even the crickets seemed to hold their breath, she slipped away from the place that had defined her existence. The plan was simple. Run into the unknown, into the darkness, where the Louisiana Bayou can offer her the one thing she had never known: freedom. But Sarah wasn't naive. She knew the risks. The bayou, with its swampy terrain and unpredictable waters, wasn't just a refuge, it was a graveyard for the unprepared. For centuries, people had tried to escape slavery through these winding paths, and many had disappeared without a trace. Yet for Sarah, the danger of remaining behind, bound to a life of servitude, was far greater than any threat the bayou could offer. Her escape was a calculated risk. She knew that the night was her ally, but so was the knowledge of the land. She had listened to the stories of those who came before her, the ones who spoke of hidden paths and the whispers of the water. She moved quietly, avoiding the watchful eyes of the overseers and slipping into the dense underbrush of the swamp. But even as she moved with purpose, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just running toward freedom, she was running from something darker. The bayou held secrets, and those secrets had a way of following. Would Sarah's plan succeed, or would the very land she sought refuge in betray her? As dawn broke, the reality of Sarah's disappearance began to sink in. The plantation was thrown into a frenzy. At first there was disbelief. After all, how could a woman, a slave, just vanish into thin air? But as the day wore on, that disbelief turned into panic. Sarah wasn't just missing, she had escaped. And in a place where escape was almost impossible, it was nothing short of extraordinary. The overseers immediately began their search, combing the fields, questioning the other slaves, and scouring the edges of the bayou. They knew it was only a matter of time before she was found, dragged back, and punished for the defiance she'd shown. But the deeper they ventured into the swamps, the more difficult it became to track her. The bayou, with its dense fog and tangled roots, seemed to swallow them whole. For every step they took, the land offered no clues, no sign of where Sarah had gone. It was as if the bayou itself had conspired to keep her hidden. Days passed, and the search expanded. The plantation owners even sent word to the local authorities, promising a reward for any information leading to Sarah's capture. But still, there was no trace of her. The deeper the searchers went into the swamp, the more it felt as if Sarah had never existed, like she had been erased from the world, a ghost swallowed up by the vast wilderness. Yet the longer she remained hidden, the more the mystery grew. Was Sarah still alive? Had she made it to freedom, or had something else happened in the eerie silence of the bayou? The questions lingered, unanswered. The Louisiana Bayou is a place of contradictions. On the surface, it appears serene, even beautiful lush greenery, winding waterways and the soft chirping of birds hidden deep in the trees. But underneath, it's a labyrinth of danger, deception, and secrets that stretch back centuries. The bayou has seen the passing of time, the movement of countless people enslaved and free, but it has never given up its own story. It guards its mysteries fiercely, as if it knows the value of silence. For Sarah, the bayou wasn't just an escape route, it was both a sanctuary and a trap. While the thick swamp provided cover, it also masked the dangers that could quickly turn her hope for freedom into a nightmare. The water was murky and the terrain was treacherous. Deadly snakes, hidden quicksand, and unpredictable tides could claim a life without a moment's notice. But the bayou's most unsettling feature wasn't its natural threats, it was the folklore that surrounded it. Stories of lost souls, spirits of the past, and shadowy figures that walked the water's edge at night. For generations, people had whispered about these myths, and now, those very stories seemed to echo in Sarah's journey. Was the bayou simply protecting its secrets, or was there something more sinister at play? Was Sarah simply lost in the maze of the swamp, or was the land itself preventing her from escaping? The more the search continued, the more it became clear that the bayou was a keeper of truths that Sarah might never be able to share. The land had already absorbed so much pain, so many stories of the enslaved. Was Sarah's story destined to become another one of those forgotten echoes? As weeks turned into months, the whispers surrounding Sarah's disappearance began to take on a life of their own. Those who knew her best, the fellow slaves on the plantation, shared their own versions of events, some clearer than others. But no one could agree on what had truly happened. Everyone had a theory, but no one had the truth. Some believed Sarah had made it out of the bayou, that she had finally found freedom beyond the reach of the plantation. They spoke of seeing her in the distance, just out of reach, a fleeting figure, vanishing between the trees. Others insisted she had never escaped at all, that something had happened to her before she could make it far enough into the swamp. These were the stories that fueled the search stories of shadows and movements in the night, as though Sarah's presence lingered, even if her body had not. Then there were the more chilling accounts. One woman claimed to have heard Sarah's voice in the distance, one night distant, faint, but unmistakably hers. She said it was as though Sarah were calling out, pleading for help, trapped somewhere in the bayou, but unable to reach anyone. Others told of strange sounds coming from the swamp, rustling leaves, eerie whispers, and the heavy sense that something was watching them as they searched. The uncertainty surrounding Sarah's fate only deepened with each new account. Was she truly lost in the bayou, or was there something more? Had she been taken by someone, or had the land itself claimed her as its own? The stories only raised more questions, offering no answers, and the mystery deepened, as did the unease. As the search for Sarah turned into a haunting cold case, the community began to buzz with theories. What had really happened to her? The whispers grew louder, and the answers became murkier. Was it the bayou that had swallowed her up, or had she been claimed by something far more sinister? One popular theory was that Sarah had been betrayed. Someone close to her had revealed her plan to escape. It was a harsh thought, but given the deep mistrust and fear that permeated the enslaved community, it wasn't far-fetched. Perhaps she had been captured before she could get far into the swamp, dragged back to the plantation and punished for daring to escape. The fear of punishment, of losing everything, had caused many before her to turn back at the last moment. Could Sarah have been forced to return, her dream of freedom crushed just short of realization? Another theory suggested that Sarah had indeed made it to freedom, and the bayou had become her sanctuary. She had slipped through the cracks of the plantation's hold, hidden in the vast wilderness, and perhaps, even now, lived among those who helped runaway slaves. But why then had no one seen her? If she had made it, surely she would have found a way to communicate, to leave a sign. Or maybe she didn't want to be found, her escape was hers alone, and perhaps, in her heart, she wanted to remain forgotten. Then, there was the most chilling theory, the one that lingered like a shadow in the hearts of those who had known Sarah. Perhaps Sarah had never made it out at all. Perhaps the bayou had claimed her, as it had so many before her. Was she now just another lost soul, wandering in the depths of the swamp, forever part of the land she sought to escape? In the years following Sarah's disappearance, her story became more than just a tragedy. It became a symbol. To those who knew her, and to many who would never know her name, Sarah came to represent something larger, the countless voices of the enslaved who had vanished into history, their struggles forgotten, their pain unacknowledged. Her disappearance sparked a quiet revolution of sorts, a movement within the community of the enslaved to remember, to speak the names of those like Sarah who had been erased from history. Her story became a rallying cry, a reminder of the brutal system that had sought to dehumanize, to crush the spirit of anyone it touched. Sarah's name, though spoken in hushed tones, lived on in the hearts of those who dreamed of freedom. She had escaped not just the plantation, but the boundaries that had been set for her existence. In a way, Sarah's vanishing served as a wake-up call for others. Her story was not one of failure, but one of resistance. For those left behind, the mystery of her disappearance became a powerful symbol of hope, a reminder that, despite everything, the spirit of escape, the desire for freedom, could never be extinguished. As years passed, Sarah's legacy grew. Her story was retold by those who survived, passed down through generations. But the truth about what happened to her, whether she found freedom or was lost to the swamp, remained elusive. Still, her story fueled the dreams of many who sought to break free from the chains of their own captivity. And in that way, Sarah's disappearance was never truly in vain. She became a part of something much bigger. The unbroken chain of resistance against slavery that stretched across time and across the forgotten lives of countless others. Decades later, the mystery of Sarah's disappearance still lingered, like a shadow that refused to be cast aside. Researchers, historians, and even amateur sleuths delved into the story, trying to uncover the truth. The plantation records were sparse, and the local archives offered little more than speculation. Yet, with each new attempt, the story of Sarah grew both more complex and more elusive. Some of the most promising leads pointed toward the accounts of the local, indigenous tribes who had lived in the bayou long before settlers arrived. Stories passed down through generations told of runaway slaves who found refuge in the swamp, guided by the natural world, and hidden by the very land that had once enslaved them. Could Sarah have made it to one of these communities? Could she have found a new life among people who knew how to survive in the swamp's vast wilderness? But those answers remained unclear, obscured by time and the bayou's vast, impenetrable darkness. The search for Sarah's truth became less about finding her physical body and more about understanding what her story had meant and continues to mean in the grand narrative of slavery and freedom. Perhaps Sarah had become something more than just a missing person. Perhaps she had transcended her story, becoming part of the larger struggle for freedom that had always existed in the hearts of the enslaved. Her disappearance, in the end, was a reminder of the many others whose names were never recorded, whose stories were never told. Sarah was one of countless individuals who sought a life beyond the borders of their suffering. And even if she was never found, her story would continue to echo in the hearts of those who sought to remember. The truth of Sarah's fate may never be fully known. The bayou holds its secrets closely, and the passage of time has only deepened. The mystery: was she swallowed up by the swamps, her body lost to the waters that had once seemed like an escape route? Did she find refuge in the untamed corners of Louisiana, carving out a life of freedom and defiance, or did something darker claim her long before she could reach safety? What we do know is that Sarah's disappearance stands as a symbol of the countless stories untold, of the millions whose lives were shaped and ultimately destroyed by the system of slavery. Sarah's story, though shrouded in mystery, has become part of the larger narrative of resistance, a reminder of the lengths to which people will go for freedom. And in that way, her story has never truly ended. Despite the many theories, the search for definitive answers continues to this day. Some historians have suggested that new evidence may one day surface, perhaps hidden documents, or accounts from descendants who still carry the memory of Sarah's struggle. Others believe the answer may lie in the bayou itself, in the places where the swamp waters conceal more than just natural life. For now, Sarah remains both a question and an answer, a question that will never truly be answered, and an answer to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable oppression. She is a part of the bayou's story now, a part of the land that holds more than just the echoes of history, but the very essence of those who fought to survive it. The truth about Sarah may remain lost to the waters, but her legacy, her fight, continues to inspire those who refuse to let her story fade away.